17 Mosaic tips in 10 minutes and the clock's ticking. So I'm going to show you those right now. Sometimes we buy something and it comes in a great container like this. This is a container that held scorched almonds. Now, the container is so strong and it has a great lid that screws on, and it's a very clear plastic. Now, the problem comes is that the labels are on fairly good, so you can't really get them off that well. As you can see, I'm sorry about my nails, but I've been painting and I can't get it out from under my skin, under my nail here. And what happens is that you can't get it properly off because it leaves some of the sticky and the label behind. So one of the best ways, and I've been doing this for years, is to actually get a heat gun like this one here and turn it on to a low heat so that you're not going to melt the container. You're just going to soften the glue that's on the label itself, and just warming it up a bit will allow you to peel that label right off. So let's give this a go and see how it works with this particular plastic jar. Just got to go into it now and have a look. And there you go. Whoop, that's my fault. Come from this side as well. And see how easy that is to peel off. And then when you get to where it starts to get a bit harder, you just do it again. You repeat it. And you continue on. And it just saves a lot of hard work, and it doesn't leave the residue behind as well. Actually, that might come all the way off. There you go. So isn't that great? When I've been cutting up a plate, most times I have some left over. So what I tend to do is I tend to put the broken pieces into a plastic bag. Now, it's only the unusual ones I put in these bags. If I was to just throw this into a container, it would take me ages to look through that container to find the pieces that I want to use. Plus, I wouldn't know if I have enough of that particular plate, where this way I can quickly access by looking at it and go, yes, this is this plate, yes, I have enough of that, or no, I don't, or I may only want a particular section out of it. Now, some of you may be asking, oh, but what about crockery? It will tear through the plastic. Yes, that has happened once when I was using a plastic bag to put all these into, but all I did was put in a larger plastic bag. The thing is, you're handling this carefully. You're not, getting it and shaking it around and stuff like that. You're handling it carefully, so therefore the crockery should not rip through the plastic at all. But I find this is a very cost-effective way and keeps things very well organized, and it does work really well for me. If you're not happy with the glue bottle that you're currently using, but you like the glue, the easiest solution is just to go and buy another glue bottle. There's so many different ones on the market, some bigger, some smaller, some with a better applicator tip on the top. All you have to do is buy the bottle, tip the glue out, wash the bottle out, put your glue into it, and then you've got a great new bottle, and hopefully that will work better for you. And just top it up when necessary. There are a number of different stained glass manufacturers, and each one makes their stained glass products differently. And because of that, you're going to find some stained glass is going to score and break really well, and others just won't. So in this particular case, this green one here, that will score and break and shape pretty well how I want it to. It works really well. The blue one here, that's going to be more difficult because that's a harder stained glass, and it's also textured on the back, which is not going to help matters. Some manufacturers, their stained glass is just going to be more difficult than others, but it's the nature of the beast. One of the things that I always do when I buy a new product, especially if it's vitreous tiles, is I like to put it into a clear container, and I also like to make sure that the container has on it the company that I purchased it from, and also the item number, so that when I come to reorder it, I know which company I've bought it from, and also the item, so as I can order the same again. But it does make reordering a real breeze. If you're lucky enough to own a Taurus ring saw, then you know how expensive they are. And like anything expensive, it's an investment. And like all investments, they need to be looked after. If you're in an area and the area has hard water, you need to start using distilled water, because hard water has minerals that can affect the parts within the ring saw. Up on screen now is a piece that I've tiled around the outside of, but when I do, I generally will throw in here and there a different width of tessera. And the reason being is that when it finally connects to the last piece and you've gone all the way around and you've got one piece to go, you can just cut a piece for it and just slot it in there and it'll work fine. You know, it looks like it's meant to be. However, if I'm using 20mm by 20mm tiles and I'm going to use those all the way around, then when it comes to the last piece to put in, the chances are it's not going to be an area 20mm by 20mm. It could be an area 20mm by 15. And so what that means is you have to go around and space them all so as you can fit another tile in there. But by using a different size tile or a different size width of a tile here and there, when it comes to your last one, you can just cut a tile, put it in, and it won't look out of place. One of the things I like to do is keep everything pretty well organised as much as I possibly can. For instance, I like to have everything in the containers and I like to have them on show. And the reason being is that it creates inspiration and it enables you to see exactly what you've got. If you keep everything in cupboards and hidden away, well, why keep beautiful things hidden away? So my thing is, don't keep everything behind cupboard doors if you can avoid it. Now in this shot up on screen now, you'll see that all these beads have holes in them. And those holes can fill up with grout if you're going to be grouting the piece. So the only way around that is to turn the bead on its side so that you can't actually see it when that hole fills up with grout. Which means that if you're selling a piece, it's going to look a lot better than having this beautiful bead and this hole in it that's got filled up with black grout. Now up on screen now is an actual shot of a cross that I made. And as you can see, the beads have all been turned around. Now, the beads that look like they have a mark on them is actually the reflection from the lights. So if you're using beads that have holes in, turn them on their sides so as you can't see the hole. And if you're using seed beads, buy seed beads without the holes in them. If I'm using small pieces of either stained glass or beads or anything small for that matter, and they're in a container and I want to get them out and place them with some degree of accuracy, what I like to do is grab a texter or a pen. I prefer a texter because it's a bit bulky to handle. I grab a piece of blue tack. This is Sally's Easy Tack, but I do prefer the Bostik brand, which is blue tack. I just grab a piece, tear it off. Actually, I'll tear two off because that's a bit small. Mould it into a ball, put it onto the end of the texture, and you can shape it to a shape if you want. It's personal preference. Then what I like to do is just grab it, put it in the container, grab a piece of tile. The substrate has a bit of glue on it, put it on the substrate, and that will stay there. And the same with a bead. If I grab a bead, and this is a reasonable sized bead, I just grab it, put it into the glue on the substrate, and then that will hold. And that's what I like to use if I have a lot of small pieces that I find just getting out of the container. If you're mixed up too much thin set, also known as cement-based adhesive, don't throw it out. Put it in these silicone moulds or really any other mould. It's better than wasting it and you create your own tessera. These moulds are readily available from supermarkets and also cake supply stores. So that way you'll be helping the environment and also having a bit of fun in the meantime creating your own tessera. Now, if you're making an outdoor mosaic, you need to know whether that tile is going to be any good to use outside. So one way of doing that, and I've got here 3 different tiles. I'm going to turn them over and we're going to add a drop of water on the back of them to see if it soaks into the tile. And if it does, it's really not going to be suitable for outside. Yes, it does. Let's try this one here. This one's made in China, this tile. That soaks in just as bad as the terracotta one. And let's try this one, which is made in Malaysia. That soaks in pretty fast too. So these tiles are not really going to be suitable for outside, especially in a freeze-thaw environment. You'd be better off using porcelain tile, which has a 0.5% or less absorption, which by definition makes it impervious. But not all porcelain tiles are created equally. So you really need to have a look at the manufacturer's stat sheet to find out what the limitations of the porcelain tile are before you go and use it. If you're looking at having your business name and logo designed, make sure that you use the Pantone colour matching system. Each of these books has colours in them and they have a specific number pertaining to each colour. So that means when it's in the artwork, you can take it to a printer and that printer will be able to print that colour correctly. So no matter what printer you go to for your business cards, for your brochures or for point of sale, it'll be the same colours across the board, which will give your brand consistency. When you finish making your mosaic or any other piece of art that you've made and you're going to be selling it online, it's very important that you take a very good photograph of it. Whatever props you use, or if you're taking a lifestyle shot, it must not detract from the focus point, which is the mosaic. Now, if we remove this plate, this angel, which is white, and it's kind of embossed and textured, this would probably work well. This would certainly work a lot better than the plate and this terrain. So it's very important when you're choosing a prop, make sure that it works with your piece you've created and doesn't fight against it. If you're working on a sculptural piece or a flower pot or a vase, put it on a Lazy Susan. That way you're able to turn it around when you need to do the other side or just to check the other side. It just makes it so much easier. When it comes to cleaning your work area, try and avoid using a broom because a broom, although it sweeps up dust, it also flicks dust around, and it can also, if you're using things like broken crockery, stained glass or anything that contains silica, as we know silica is dangerous to your lungs, then that can also be flicked up into the atmosphere for you to breathe it in. So try and avoid using a broom. Use a vacuum cleaner with a HEPA filter on, or even a wet mop or anything that's going to suppress the dust rather than flick it up into the atmosphere. When you're creating a mosaic, try and think 3-4 moves in front, because what that will allow you to do is think about the flow of the mosaic, the colours that are working within and going to interact with that piece you're about to lay down, and it'll also help you avoid longer outlines, which can certainly take away from the look of a mosaic. So thinking 3 or 4 moves in front, similar to chess, the more you do that, the more it'll become second nature and you'll automatically do it without even thinking about it. There's a lot of creativity around. The only thing is it has to go through a creative mind to be recognised. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed the tips and you had a bit of fun along the way. And if you did, please subscribe and I'll see you in the next video. Enjoy.